Hey, welcome in, everyone. We are just waiting to get the thumbs up that everyone has got the chance to get in. So, we're getting the thumbs up. So, welcome into Building the Broncos. I'm your host, Carl Dumler, and of course, joining me from good old Northwest of the United States is Mr. Nick Kendell. Nick, how you doing, buddy?
I am hoping that I will not freeze and my audio quality holds up because you went in and out there, which makes me think it was me. The area where I normally record right now is a cat room because the cat is not supposed to jump up on anything or can't really do anything for 14 days. So where I normally record has been taken over and now I'm in the front. So if you hear your dog whining or my internet isn't as good, I apologize, but we're making do. Everybody's kind of dealing with 2020, and it's just another curveball.
Yeah, that's so you're kind of like my household where you're a pretty low man on the totem pole when it comes to priority.
Oh, man, bottom. if you walked in the door right now, I would move down a slot. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it usually goes my daughter, my wife, the two dogs, the cat, me.
Okay, for us, it's the cat again, the dog, the cat for a third time, my wife, the cat again, and then me. So he's the baby, so he's doing better. But the road to recovery, and we've been sleeping down there too, so that hasn't been. I'm exhausted, but I'm here. I'm excited to talk football. I'm happy to see everybody in here. We got Vic Fangio in the house too. Hello, Vic. How you doing? Hopefully, we have a good week of practice. That was the former coach. But. Yep. No, we appreciate you guys. We're gonna get it rolling, but just wanted to give any apologies in advance if my internet is going in and out. I'm sure there'll be people who will jump in 10 times saying, "Hey, Nick, you're frozen," or "Nick, you sound like a robot." Well, fingers crossed we don't get that. But here for you guys still, and let's have a good show, Carl. Let's talk. Let's have some fun and talk some Broncos.
Let's do that. Let's get the business side out of the way here. We'll let everyone know that our stream tonight is brought to you by sportsbetting.com. Broncos country, gambling is legal in the state of Colorado, and here's what makes sportsbetting.com a no-brainer for all sports fans. They have sharp odds and low juice. They have in-house bookmakers, and they're not a third-party provider of odds. They have reduced juice and the best prices. They also have hassle-free bonuses, meaning the bonus money is yours after one bet. It only takes one time instead of the 5 to 30 times some of the other websites require. They also have 24/7 live customer support, always a real person in the U.S. Here's the kicker. At sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle, you can get 100% risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. Not just one bet, but all of your bets. Play for a week, and if your losses exceed your winnings at the end of the week, sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle will cover 100% of the difference up to $1,000 with a one-time rollover. So head on over to sports betting at sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle. That's sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle and capitalize on a risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. Also, make sure that you find us on Twitter. You can find me at Carl Dumler MHH and Nick at Nick Kendell MHH. And if you're joining us today via YouTube, do us a huge favor. Like, subscribe, and share. Same on Facebook if you can. Click those little thumbs up. Also, don't miss all of our great in-season content at milehighhuddle.com, an affiliate of the Sports Illustrated part of the Maven Coalition, brought to you by Overtime Media. All right.
All right. Well,
I feel bad for Vic Fangio joining us, and we got lots of people wanting him gone. Sorry, Vic. I don't want you gone.
Not yet.
Not yet. I mean, the injuries on the defensive side of the ball, you got to give him a little bit of a pass on some things that are going on. Not all the way, but I would say you got to give him a little pass. We'll see what he can do next year. And then, yes, I was watching Zach Wilson before the game. BYU's playing right now. He is looking really good. I'm not going anywhere. That's good to hear. Get to see that.
Wilson has looked amazing tonight. And I really think that Justin Fields has not really progressed this season. He's still got good tools. He's a good athlete, but Wilson throws the football better. So I think he's probably going to be the second guy off the board, second quarterback off the board, and probably the second guy. Am I freezing?
No, you're good. I was saying, Jets.
The Jets. Yeah, I know for sure. But no, who knows what happens with the football? Maybe somebody's going to trade up and the Jets will want to run it back with Darnold and really build up that base there because Darnold played really well yesterday. And we're both Darnold apologists. We were both big fans of him coming out. But we'll see what happens. But I think we'll get a chance to talk some draft. I already see a lot of people talking draft here. You guys know what building the Broncos are about, but we want to talk about it's a very future-looking season right now. 2 weeks left. We need to look forward right now. We always want to stay in the present, but 2020. Let's kick it up a couple weeks. Let's start talking future. I know that the Huddle Up podcast, they talked Pro Bowl. Congratulations to Bradley Chubb and Justin Simmons, both well deserving. And Simmons got somewhat shafted last year, probably deserved it last year. Chubb having an okay season this year. He's been good. He's not. I mean, we have Von Miller expectations, which is like first ballot Hall of Fame, not Pro Bowl edge rusher. So congratulations to Bradley Chubb. I mean, gosh, you could tell how much it meant to him in that interview with him crying and tearing up and talking about Von. So that makes me happy. I mean, these are people, we're here giving these guys a hard time. I'll like go Burt Rip and, roll my eyes at him being a quarterback, but then talk about him being a coach. Like, that's a person. So sometimes you see in something like that, it kind of really takes away that facade, I guess, and kind of makes you really realize, like trying to make their livelihood here. Obviously, so are we. We're just here to try to give analysis, and try not to make anything personal, but it was good to see Chubb get it. Really happy for him and really happy for Simmons as well. Maybe that hurts the Broncos a little bit with the contract negotiation for Simmons, but we'll see.
Right. Well, and it also hurts with Chubb because I think if they get a Pro Bowl, doesn't that bump up their pay for their 5th-year option?
I think so. There was some difference in the CBA where I'm not sure what carried over. Like, is it all the ones from the new CBA signing onwards, or is it retroactively work for all the other players previously? So I'm not sure exactly what it will fit, but either way, I'm happy for both of them. Chubb has been playing solid this season, not incredible, but solid. And I think he obviously has that 5th overall pedigree as well, so he gets a bump there. And it's a fan vote. Like, I would not give 2 flying hoots about the Pro Bowl if it wasn't for like seeing somebody like Chubb break down and cry, because obviously it means a lot to the players. So then I care. But like, fan votes, notoriously horrible. I mean, you go on Facebook or Twitter for a second, those people are voting. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you a hard time, Twitter people. But we see some outlandish stuff out there. Yeah, and it's a name recognition. That's why Justin Simmons gets a year late, and that's why a guy like Garrett Bowles gets snubbed this season.
Right. So, same with Bryce Callahan.
Both
of them had seasons better than some of the players got taken. I think the offensive line is where you see it the worst, because people don't know how to watch offensive linemen. You don't watch football to watch the offensive line. You watch it to see the big plays. So those are the players you know. So a lot of people are just going by, oh, this guy's getting paid big money, he must be really good.
Don't become a Hawkeye fan, Carl. If that's how you explain football, you guys are getting. I'm just giving a hard time, but yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Chubb, I think Garrett Bowles was a huge snub. I know that everybody likes Orlando Brown Jr., the giant tackle from the Ravens, but there's no way that he deserved it over Garrett Bowles this season. I mean, not that Orlando Brown Jr. is not good right tackle, but Bowles has been one of the best in football this season. So that's kind of a disappointment. And Callahan, I'm not sure the specifics as far as Callahan making it now that he's on IR, but I also think it was another thing where there's always kind of a lag between coming on and then being recognized by the fans for coming on. So Bowles, I think he probably should have made it this year just because the first round talent. I feel like we've been talking about him a lot. He got the big contract as well. I mean, all those things to me said I thought Bowles would make it this year, but for Callahan, next year. Now, granted, he's got to stay healthy. Yep. And I actually have a wood table now, so I can knock away on that one. But I'll probably freak the dog out, so better stop that.
Yeah.
It'll be
Richie Rich. You're right. I love offensive line play too, but it takes someone kind of crazy to want to watch that over and over again.
Or somebody who played it.
Yes, exactly. So it is a very important position on the field. Like I said, it's hard to watch because a lot of people just really have no clue what they're watching. And I mean, I'm still learning a lot on what I'm looking at. And even there, I'm still an amateur when it comes to a lot of that. So next year I expect if Bowles has another good season, good chance he makes it next season. Same with Callahan. I think there's a few other players that I think stand a really good chance. And those are the guys we're going to talk about here tonight. Looking ahead to next season and the players the Broncos have, a lot of young players that have shown glimpses of emerging as something great. And Wannabeast is right. Bowles could actually be an all-pro this year and not make the Pro Bowl, just like Simmons did last year.
Yep.
But anyway, getting to next season and what the Broncos could be looking at talent-wise, who are some of the players that could really take that next step? Who do we believe really can be the foundation of this team moving forward? I guess let's start with the offensive side.
Yes, that's a good one. And I think first one I'll kick it off to you is, what does Drew Lock have to do? And we're talking about him still being the quarterback next year, right? So that's still an unknown. But what would Drew Lock have to do next year to earn a Pro Bowl nod? Now, we know Trevor Siemian got the Pro Bowl, so that kind of, so many players back out that it just kind of eventually, they should just release a list at the end of the year and call it good. You could have two different ones, kind of like how they do with the All-Americans in college. But either way, what would a 2021 season look like for Drew Lock if he is to make the Pro Bowl next year?
It would have to be outstanding. You look at the AFC, of course, even in our own division, the Broncos have Mahomes, who's going to make it if he's healthy. That's almost a guarantee. You got Herbert, who really looks good this year for being a rookie. I mean, he just broke the rookie record for passing touchdowns in a season, if I remember right, this last week. So he looks good, stands a really good chance of being in that conversation. Derek Carr has been a very consistent quarterback. I mean, that's our own division. Then you got Josh Allen. You got
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, you got Baker Mayfield. You got Lamar Jackson. Big Ben possibly returning next year. You got Watson in the South. Yeah.
AFC is so loaded at young quarterback. It is. Yeah. It makes me really, and now you're probably, I mean, Trevor Lawrence is going to come also.
Right.
So, man, the AFC is so loaded at quarterback. So essentially, I guess what I was getting at is if Drew Lock doesn't play at a MVP level next season, he's not going to make the Pro Bowl just because it takes season. He'd have to come on next season, then have another good season after that. Great season to make it. So I think we can rule out Lock there, even if he is the Broncos starting quarterback next season. I think he probably should be. But that's where I'm leaning right now. But Pro Bowl, not happening. I think a more interesting question right now. We got Kenneth Booker actually coming in with the stats, 4K, and looked like 40 touchdowns there. There we go, and under 10 INTs. Yeah, that's not likely, but that's a huge leap. That's the growth that we're all hoping for. But running back, I think that's a more interesting question, just because we are talking outlandish expectations with Lock that are bordering on, nonfiction or fiction, not nonfiction. But running back, that's a more interesting question. You have the first round pick, Melvin Gordon. I'm assuming he's going to be back. I know that he's going to probably miss time because of the DUI, so that makes it harder for him. And then you have Lindsey, who's been, dare I say, losing effectiveness a little bit year by year as far as the end of the season. I mean, it just seems like these injuries are mounting up more and more at the end of the season. Even though he had more of a guy to carry the load for him this season, he got dinged. So running back, I know Lindsey's made it before. Melvin Gordon, former first-round pick. Both guys are good running backs. I don't see either of them making the Pro Bowl next year.
They take too many carries away from each other. Yeah. And like I said, both have injury concerns that make it difficult to really project them having that full season of productivity. The Broncos seem to really go to the hot hand. So earlier in the season, Lindsey was the hot hand, and he got his opportunities, had some really good games. Melvin Gordon has been the guy over the second half. And so it's just really hard to see how one of those guys make it over some of these guys that are truly a featured back, like a Derrick Henry. I'm trying to think of some of the other guys in the AFC, even the Chiefs. Next year they're going to have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's going to be a tough one.
Josh Jacobs. There's a lot of
Josh Jacobs. Yeah, that was another one that I was thinking of there. So it's hard to see how that's going to work out unless the Broncos do decide to move on from Melvin Gordon this year.
Yep, I do agree with you there. I think one thing that the Broncos at least have, those two guys have going for them, is that they both have some name recognition, and they wouldn't need a buffer season, so to speak, before getting that Pro Bowl nod. If they had a great season next year, I think both of them could easily get in. I agree with you completely with Melvin Gordon. Is he going to be here next year? What does the contract mean as far as the DUIs and the guarantees? I think he will be here, but still an unknown. And Lindsey, I love Lindsey. I feel like the effectiveness and the injuries are kind of every single season. It's like, oh, well, here we go again. So we'll see what happens. The main point is they are kind of pulling at each other there, and both of them they make each other better. They should make each other better overall and make the Broncos run game better, obviously. But as far as individual accolades, kind of pull away from each other. So wide receiver now, I mean, you would think that both Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy would have a chance. The thing that makes me concerned is that the running or the wide receiver position is so dependent on the quarterback. It's a stats position, and unless you're like a Calvin Megatron out there, then your quarterback position is probably going to hold you back. And there's also the argument that the Broncos have so many mouths to feed offensively at the wide receiver position. It's not going to be like we're just throwing it to Devontae Adams and Julio Jones over and over and over again. And those guys are good enough you can kind of do that, but I am curious if the Broncos are going to have a good enough passing attack at the quarterback position and focal enough on one of those guys that they could make it. Now, it's definitely possible. It's a passing league, and Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, all those guys have the talent to be Pro Bowlers eventually. I just don't know if I see it in the cards for 2021.
Yeah, and it's hard to, especially with Sutton coming off this serious injury.
Yeah.
How long is it going to take him to really get rolling? I mean, we saw it with Bradley Chubb this year. It took a while before he really started trusting that knee. It's probably about the Jets game where you really saw him take off and start having a pretty decent season here. And so I do question that a little bit with Cortland Sutton. How much is he going to trust that leg to hold up and to make the cuts that he was making before? Like I said, Jerry Jeudy, he's one of those guys. He needs an accurate quarterback. He can get himself open. He just needs a quarterback that's accurate and can actually get it to him in time, in space, and let him go make plays down the field. That hasn't been the case this year. Drew Lock is kind of I need to see a guy open before I make the pass at times. And it just, that doesn't fit with Jeudy all the time. Now, maybe another offseason, maybe another year with Shermer, they start working on that timing, get things down a little bit better. I hope that's the case. But it just, until I see it, it's hard to believe it.
Yeah, and I gotta answer the heckler here, Diamond Rattler. Now we have too many pass catchers. Be quiet, bro. Well, come take the mic from me first off. No, that'd be hard. But I think the biggest thing here is that I am excited about having this many pass catchers. I'm all about adding to the arsenal. But when it comes down to team success versus individual accolades, it'll make those guys easier, their jobs easier for sure. But I also think that it's a stats-driven position. It's a stardom-driven position. And when you have to spread the love around, you're just not going to have the volume to do that. And I also don't think the Broncos are going to be a high-volume passing attack. So, I mean, you have the Chiefs, where obviously they have Mecole Hardman and Sammy Watkins, but it's really a two-horse race when it comes to their passing attack with Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. So, it is what it is. It's not the biggest deal, but that's kind of where we're going from here. And we also got Stu Meat coming in with the super sticker. Appreciate you very much, Stu. I can't tell. Is that like, I can't tell what's going on with your picture there. You'll have to let us know in the comments section. But
congratulations, LVUP, Las Vegas up or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, but it's kind of a cool picture.
Level up.
Ah, nice. There you go. Okay.
That's gotta be it. So, how's it going? It's going pretty well, Stu. It's have not gotten much sleep recently, but it's all good. But yeah, no, that's doing fine. Let's keep it moving here. Offensive line now. I definitely think Garrett Bowles is somebody who is going to get there next year. That is assuming we don't see a regression. But the rest of the offensive line, I'm not sure if any of them have the Pro Bowl upside that they would get in. Maybe down the line after guys like back out, that's possible. But I think Graham Glasgow is an okay starter, probably bordering on. They paid him, and he's kind of like a B- level starter. But is that a Pro Bowler? Probably not. Cushenberry's second year. I mean, he can be solid at center, but do I say a Pro Bowler? I don't think so. And Reisner, there was some hope, but I think he's actually probably better in the Scangarillo offense. I don't know if I see a Pro Bowler there either. I think Reisner probably has the biggest chance out of those guys, but I don't know. And I think Moody does have Pro Bowl potential, but we're talking 2022, and that's just too early.
Right. Yeah. Offensive line, it really does take a year before guys start getting recognition. And especially, like I said, that position, it's hard for fans to know exactly what's going on. And so unless they are a top pick in the draft and then go and have a lot of people talking about them, most people don't really know much about them outside of their own fan base. And so, I mean, Garrett Bowles, he's been badmouthed around the NFL for 3 years. And then he has this all-pro season, and everybody's like, well, all I've heard about Garrett Bowles is he is trash. I had somebody send me an article the other day. I can't remember if it was on Twitter or on Facebook. I think it was on Facebook, where they said that the Broncos offensive line is ranked like 26th in the NFL. Well, I actually read the article, and it was from like June or August. I'm like, the entire article is bashing Bowles and how terrible of a player he is. Yeah. I'm like, did you read this? so again, it's one of those things where it takes time before people really begin to understand the offensive line and what they're doing. And so, like I said, Reisner, I think he's got name recognition. I think he's being a second round pick. Yeah, and he's got personality. He's got everything. So I think he stands a decent chance if he can really have a great bounce back season next season. I think having that another year working with Munchak, good chance he can do that. Cushenberry, he's a long ways away.
Yeah, I think following us with Bowles, too. We have a lot of Bowles talk going on in the comments section right now. Anybody who's following us knows that we've been pretty much, I wouldn't say Bowles apologists, but we were saying that at worst he was an average right tackle last season. And he had a bad game against Cleveland where Myles Garrett took his lunch money multiple times, but Myles Garrett's the second best pass rusher in football right now, so you shouldn't feel too bad about that. But Bowles from the second half of last season and all of this season has been playing top 10 left tackle money, maybe even top 10 tackle period. So I thought he would get it this year. I thought he deserved it this year, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, man, Vic Fangio is coming with some heat tonight. I like it. But Kenneth Booker coming in was saying Sutton, Simmons, Reisner, and Bowles have a good chance to make it next year. Did you watch Long Kiss Goodnight, Carl? It's a good Christmas action movie. I did, Kenneth. I did watch it. Had a long coffee conversation with some of my some guys around here that I hang out with, and so we were all reminiscing about it, and just I don't know. It was a great movie. I loved it when they're towards the end of the movie when they're putting the girl and the mom in the cooler, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna watch you scream," and I'm like, and you see the little girl going. I don't know. It was a good movie. I will watch that next Christmas.
Well, Kenneth, there you go. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever floats your boat there. Carl liked it. Carl's seal of approval. We got Casey Martin coming in. Pro Bowl selections are not accurate measurement of players' quality. Absolutely not. At the beginning of the show, we were talking about that. It's a fan vote. It's a popularity contest, not an evaluation contest. And
I would even say having the players and the coaches vote on it, they're not watching all these players because they already have so much film they have to watch. They're not watching teams that they're not playing. Yeah. So even their vote, I would question some of what they would. I bet it's more kind of word of mouth for them too. It's a little bit of a popularity of, hey, this is a big name. Yeah, I'm sure he had a good season.
Yep, no, absolutely. I will say, what has more validity to you, the Pro Bowl votes or the NFL Network's top 100? Because hearing about how that is filled out, man, that is some hanky-panky. It's just like, I'll vote for you if you vote for me. Like Will Parks wrote his name in 10 times himself. Like, it's that kind of thing going on in every locker room.
I would probably give, I'd say the Pro Bowl has more validity.
Wow. Yep. I mean, you're not wrong, but that's just, it's an interesting conversation to have.
That's like saying, here's a pile of crap and here's another one. Which one smells worse?
I don't want to be the person who tests that. I'm all about doing stuff for science, but you can miss me with that one. But yeah, no, let's move on now to the defensive side of things. Obviously, Chubb made it. I do think that Shelby Harris has a chance. He's a guy, again, another guy with big personality. If he had a good game that Sunday night against the Chiefs, and if he comes back another year in the system, the Broncos further adding edge rush talent around him, Draymond Jones taking another step up. That would, I think Shelby Harris has a shot. It's a little bit more of a long shot. Was he a 5th round draft pick for the Raiders when he came out of Illinois State? It was pretty late.
6, yeah, it was late.
Yeah. But anyway, I think he's definitely got a chance. And then obviously a dark horse, I guess, would be Von Miller too, right? Like we're not sure what's going to happen with him, but he's definitely got a chance to be a guy next year.
Yeah. Well, this is it. If Shelby Harris comes back,
also, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, if Shelby Harris comes back and you got Draymond Jones on another spot, Ajim in his second year, Von Miller doesn't have to be the man every single play.
Yeah.
This will be his best unit since like the 2016 group.
So, yeah, Darian actually had a great comment here though. DeForest Buckner didn't make it, and he, outside of Aaron Donald, Buckner was the second best interior defensive lineman this season that I watched. So it would be hard for Shelby to get in. That's a good point, Darian.
Yeah. defensive line, unless you got the sexy stats, the sacks, getting that 10 to 15 sacks from the interior, it really is hard to get in from that kind of spot. So he's going to have that kind of season. He does have the personality. Like you said, personality does matter in these kind of votes for a lot of these, for fans and players. Yeah. So we'll see on that. But Von Miller, I think he stands a chance because I think he's going to have more one-on-one kind of opportunities than he's probably had at any other point in his career.
Yeah, that's a great point. Let's move to the second level now. I think outside of Bryce Callahan, I don't see much Pro Bowl potential on this roster. I know that there was kind of some hope for Alexander Johnson. There was hoping to take another step this year, but I think he's just a solid linebacker. I don't really see a Pro Bowl guy. Josie Jewell has definitely outperformed my expectations, and I'm the self-described Hawkeye homer. So I did not expect him to be out there and play this well this season. Not that it's that well, but he's not been a total sieve and an issue on the defense. Some of that scheme, but still. And then cornerback, I mean, I think Boye's probably gone. Callahan, we talked about. Ojemudia, if Ojemudia can be a fine starting cornerback, that's enough for me. He doesn't have to be a Pro Bowler, and I don't see a Pro Bowler there in him. Maybe eventually down the line, if he continues to grow, maybe he can kind of be like a safety cornerback, kind of like what Kareem Jackson did down the line, because he does have some physicality, needs to work on that tackling technique, but he's also extremely smart. I think that's possible, but right now, outside of Callahan, I don't really see that guy unless they bring in, a Patrick Peterson who's going to be a free agent or a first-round rookie who kills it.
Yeah. Vic Fangio coming in, you could probably answer this question better than we can. Could Asang Bassi take the next step like Chris Harris did? One, coming off this injury so late in the season, it's hard to see next year him making that kind of leap because I'm not sure he's going to be ready for week one.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he's a Pro Bowl talent, but he looks like a guy who you need to have a plethora of resources at pass rush and coverage guys in today's NFL, and he's another name that you can pull out and feel okay about. So I think that there's a lot of value there, but it doesn't have to be a Pro Bowler. And then the safety position, just moving it on down. Justin Simmons made it this year. Hopefully he'll be back next year. I guess that's the question. Do we see any Broncos in 2021 making the Pro Bowl? Well, is Justin Simmons still here? Like that's the question.
Yep. No, I think good chance now that they've got Bulls locked up. They don't have to worry about giving him the franchise tag. The next guy on that list to get that franchise tag is Simmons. He is such a great fit, especially if Fangio returns, I think Simmons returns. If they move on to a new coaching staff, all things are thrown up in the air. Hard to tell who's going to be back, who's not. Got some Philly Will. I hope he's back. He has looked really good considering that he's just kind of thrown into this defense and pretty much said, hey, you're a starter day one because we have so many injuries. He's really played pretty darn well, made some nice plays for the defense. I wouldn't mind seeing him back one bit because he's got that versatility to play the strong safety, to play the nickel. He can kind of move around the field for the Broncos. I don't see Pro Bowler, but he is definitely a nice depth piece for the Broncos to have. And
what about Mark Barron? Oh, that's right. He's not on the Broncos anymore. Transition. They're throwing it out there. The Broncos moved on from Mark Barron. We never saw him play for the Broncos. He had the hamstring, the week one game where he was supposed to help add some coverage ability to the linebacker position. And it never happened. We never saw him. I'm not there in the training room. Can't really say what happened, but another disappointment. I would say probably that was the Broncos' Theo Riddick signing for this season. Last year we saw Theo Riddick for like a moment in preseason. Then, oh God, who was it? One of the quarterbacks they had absolutely killed him. Might have been Kevin Hogan. Just like
it was
horrible throw. Just like might as well just run into traffic. It was that kind of throw. And Theo Riddick was gone, and there's that money. Poof. But that's kind of the signing of Mark Barron this year. It's unfortunate because they could have used 0 yards allowed for Barron. You know what? When you make a good point, you get Pro Bowl. No, that's he that was a bummer of a signing. But you can't control that. They were trying to add some resources to the linebacking position, maybe some athletic ability and experience, and just never came to fruition. So there was a reason he was out there still available so late. He wasn't gonna be make or break for the Broncos making the playoffs this season at the linebacking position. But still, it was a bummer, and he's moving on. And are you enjoying the pun there?
Yeah, Barron was Barron. Yep, that was nice.
You dad jokes.
Oh, that was perfect. But all right, well, I have a question for you, Nick.
Okay.
I see a lot of these questions already coming up. Did I get the right one? Take a corner in every round. Yes, definitely better cornerbacks. So here's my question for you. I'm going to list off a few different cornerbacks that are going to be in this draft that are going to be early on. And I've seen each of these players. We've had fans of the show text us or I guess message us on Facebook or Twitter, whatever. I've seen each of these names come up for the Broncos. So I just want to see your thoughts on these, of their fit and where they should go in the draft, where the Broncos should target them. So, I mean, let's start with the obvious one, Caleb Farley.
I think Caleb Farley, if his medicals come back decently clean, he is a no-brainer top 10 pick. He was a talented wide receiver that transitioned over to the cornerback position. He's really good off ball. Reminds me a lot of Marshawn Lattimore coming out. The injuries are a concern. He opted out this year. That's a concern just because, a year and a half off of football. What does that mean? But as far as the tools go and fit for this defense as well, I think Caleb Farley is probably as good as it gets for a match made in heaven for the Broncos in this draft class when you matching talent to fit to need.
Okay. Eric Stokes. That's another one that was on my list from Georgia.
I like Eric Stokes a lot as well. He is extremely athletic, which I appreciate with him. He doesn't have as much Caleb Farley, I think, he's a little bit more athletic and has more inside-outside ability. He'll have to work on some of the physicality and tackling stuff, but I think Stokes, we haven't seen much of that. I think he has the ability to play press, but I'm most interested in him in zone. I think he carries guys down the field pretty well, and I also, he tackles. He brings a good amount of tenacity in whether it be stopping a short pass or the run game. I do worry about his ability to make plays on the ball. You haven't seen many of that, but a lot of it, he's kind of playing off coverage or bailing pretty quickly. So I'm excited about Stokes as far as taking him. Probably not, unless he absolutely blows up the combine. Probably not taking him in the top 15, but end of round 1, sign me up. I'm excited about him. I think that he has the ability to be a good zone and man cornerback, which is, who knows what the future holds for Vic Fangio in this scheme. They've been playing more man tendencies this season. So getting somebody that can do a little bit of both, I think that's a good way to go.
All right. As Clayton Heron says, smash that like button, of course. All right. A few more names here. J.C. Horn. He has really flown up a lot of draft boards. Been kind of, that physicality that he plays with. A lot of people really like that. Shown to be a really good press man corner. Is he a right fit for the Broncos?
I like J.C. Horn. I need to see his testing. I think he's a solid athlete, but not the type of athlete that you see go top 10, top 15 at the cornerback position in this league. And he had that incredible game against Auburn. If you just watch that game against Auburn, you'd say a top 10 pick. But other than that, it's been more back end of the first round. So I think he is in play at 15 for the Broncos if they're picking in that kind of 17 to 13 range. It isn't a pick that I would feel in love with, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, but I feel like I'm just going to cut you off here because you're asking all these questions. I feel like Broncos picking like top 14, 13, where they're picking right now. Only 2 cornerbacks I'd feel solid about there would be Surtain, who I don't love, but I think he's at a tremendously high floor. And I think that he would come in here and he'd be fine there. And then Caleb Farley, who I think is a top 8 pick and will be gone by the time the Broncos pick. After that, it's just a hodgepodge of a bunch of guys where I don't feel very great ranking them against each other other than their fit in the scheme. Like there is Eric Stokes, who I like a lot. Georgia also has another cornerback that I am interested in Tyson Campbell, who's 6'2". He's got length for days. And Darion Kendrick. He's also another guy kind of like Caleb Farley playing for Clemson and Darion Kendrick. He came over as a very high, maybe even a 5-star wide receiver prospect. Trying to think of, I don't do the high school to college stuff. I do the college to the NFL stuff. Like Darion Kendrick, he has incredible athleticism. He's played better every single week. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has a good playoff. He might be pushing for that third cornerback just because the tools are that much.
Okay. This is a good question from Chase Wellner. How deep is this cornerback class compared to usual?
Honestly, it's such a weird season that I could not tell you. This season, I feel I would rather have more picks. I don't know. This is maybe a debate we should have later because it is such a weird season. The guys did not have as much time to prepare. There are a lot of people who only play like Pac-12 games. Are you feeling comfortable taking a Pac-12 player that's only played a Pac-12 player? I mean, I don't know. So would you rather move up and consolidate your resources to get a guy that you feel really comfortable about? Or would you rather spread the love, trade down, and get more resources? That way you have more shots at the hoop, so to speak. I'm not sure what the right direction to go to because it's just such a weird season. I know we still had college football this season, but it's been a not normal college football season.
Right. It is really hard to judge players, how much those guys that have sat out a year, what are they going to look like? That's tough for them to go from no football to all of a sudden combine and be told you got to be in football shape. You got to look like a football player. You're going to be compared to some of these guys that have played all year. And like I said, some of them have played some tough games, tough matchups that you really like. But I even had somebody the other day, I think it was Rich actually asking about the center position and some names that could go early in the draft. And so, of course, throughout Josh Myers, Creed Humphrey are a couple names out there. But what matchups have they had? Not great ones.
No, not great ones. You missed Tyler Linderbaum there for Iowa. I don't know if he's going to come out. He's just a redshirt sophomore. Man, he would be incredible with Kyle Shanahan just because he's an amazing athlete. But yeah, no, I think it's just such a weird year this year. So we're going to have a debate there on what happens. We have Shaun Wade coming in here. If he falls into the second round, could be decent from DNV3. Okay. I think Shaun Wade, he's a guy that I would have been happy about taking top 15 last year. And this is the exact argument of why it makes me a little bit nervous with those guys who opted out, because Shaun Wade talked to pretty much any scouting head last year saying this guy's got amazing tools. He's young. And the only reason that he's not playing the outside right now is because they had 2 first-round cornerbacks playing the outside at Ohio State last year. He made the transition to the boundary cornerback, and he has struggled this year. Now, part of that was because he opted out, then opted in, and it's been a weird offseason for him, but he's hurt his draft stock. So anybody who opted out this season, who didn't play, I mean, you have that possibility where, are they going to come back? Are they going to be flat? Are we not evaluating them for what they actually are, but rather what they were? So guys like Gregory Rousseau, Caleb Fairley. I'm not as worried about Penei Sewell or Micah Parsons just because they are such absolute freaks. But still, I mean, it's a conversation that every team is going to have, and I'm not sure what the answer is.
Right. No, you're right. And even those guys, what are they going to be for the combine? How good a shape are they going to be? Because a lot of these guys
look like.
Right. Yeah. We don't even know if we're going to have one or not. It might be virtual, and we'll see how that goes. So it is. It's very tough to kind of figure out until we get more and more information on some of these guys. And even there, it is, like you said, you're going to have such limited information compared to other years. They've got limited games. Even the teams that have played a pretty full schedule this year, there's still limitations on that.
And I've been talking to some folks who are more ears to the ground, like ones that will travel to different facilities and talk with college coaches and players, kind of the evaluation there. And that's not happening this year. So expect as wild of a draft process this season as ever. Like guys who, obviously you have the names that we all know, Parsons, Sewell, some of these quarterbacks, Zach Wilson, who apparently has 3 touchdowns in the first half today. But after that, it's just going to be a very, I would say, erratic. Like what the big media kind of, when they have a lot of echo chamber going on and confirmation bias with each other, they kind of almost most of them kind of start to look similarly. But those guys compared to the teams is going to be as different as we've ever seen any year because there's just not that communication. So it'll be wild. It'll be a lot of fun. But I mean, there's going to be a lot of like, I've never even heard of this guy. Or this guy's a 7th round talent. It's like, well, that team did not evaluate him that way, and we'll see how it turns out.
Right. Well, it's going to also be tough. I mean, we'll get this information before the draft comes and everything, but which players decide to go back? Which players decide to come out? It could be a wild year looking at just the names that decide. I mean, your boy from Iowa playing center, redshirt sophomore, probably going to return, but he might kind of go, hey, next year's not even guaranteed. I'm going out getting my money now.
Yeah, and I will never fault the player for going out and making that business decision when these universities are making fistful of money, hand over fist, over them playing in sports. So if they want to go get paid, then by means, hopefully they're making the right decision.
Yeah.
So here's Richie Richie coming in. Yes, I hate Cush and want a replacement. This is probably a good conversation here where we can kind of steer it towards the offensive line. I know some people, I think it was Vic Fangio saying we might need another right tackle still. And I honestly have been of the mind where I don't mind them going first round at offensive tackle this season if the board falls that way and if the player feels, this culture and the scheme, et cetera, then you know what? Tackle's a valuable enough position where let's say you have let's say next year Moody displaces Glasgow. I don't care. You're still paying them what you're paying them. Now the cheaper guys just play the best players. So if you have a chance to get a right tackle who you really like and can be a long-term solution there after what you've dealt with at the right tackle position post Orlando Franklin, I guess that's kind of, we need to talk about Broncos offensive line as a Orlando Franklin benchmark, because after him, it's just been terrible at that right tackle position. But I would have no issue with it. Now, is that the direction I'm looking overall? Probably more so edge / cornerback, but I would be interested in a tackle there. And if a guy fits, I mean, I have no issue with it. Honestly, I want the Broncos to trade back. I really do. It's a weird season. I want them to trade back. I want them to get 2022 capital as well, and then just take the best edge, cornerback, offensive tackle available, end of round 1. Love that you have a guy there for 5 years on that contract, and know that you have a potential high-end starter there. That's what I would do. But now it takes 2 to tango to trade back. But still, that's where I would be going. That's a hedging your bets for the quarterback position as well.
Yeah. Now, kind of continuing that conversation about the offensive line, essentially what I'd be telling the group right now is the only 2 guys really locked into their positions for next season, Reisner and Bowles.
Is Reisner locked in?
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I haven't seen anybody else really compete with him a whole lot. And while Glasgow's been up and down, mostly because of injuries this year, I think part of it for me is Glasgow has the versatility. So I want to try him out at center. I want to try him out there at right guard. Moody as well, Cushenberry, even Wilkinson if he's comes back next season. I want all those guys just kind of competing and trying to figure out who are the top 2 guys that we can work as a combo. And I mean, if Reisner, I don't know. Like I said, he did have a down year. I think he's been playing a little bit better as the season is closed out. So I guess that makes me feel a little bit better that he is secure in his position. But the rest of them, I'd be telling them your spot is not safe. James, even when he comes back and with that big contract, I'd be telling him, hey, you missed this whole last season. We don't know what you are. You got to go out there and prove that you are the starter at the right tackle position. Calvin Anderson, he played a pretty darn good game at the left tackle spot. Maybe he could be the swing tackle. Maybe he could be the starter at right tackle. Like I said, Wilkinson might be coming back. Dotson, hard to there we go. There's the swing tackle is a sneaky need unless they like Anderson. I don't know. And I'm sure they're still going to add more competition through the draft even. Now, how early they go, I'm not sure. But it is a position that is changing all the time. So you need quality depth and you need lots of guys. And I like that the Broncos are starting to get some names out there like a Moody, like an Anderson that have shown some quality reps. So they're showing some better depth than they've had in years past. But why not play Glasgow at center and Moody at right guard for part of next game at least? I wouldn't mind seeing it. I know you're risking a little bit of injury concerns with some of that, of some miscommunications. I mean, the sack fumble 2 games ago, that was on Moody. He didn't see the blitz coming up the middle and went and did a combo block with Wilkinson on the right tackle spot. And his guy went right by him, right to Drew Lock for an easy sack fumble. So those kind of things make you a little bit nervous, but at the same time, you got to evaluate, you got to figure out what these guys are heading into next season a little bit.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I really would be interested in seeing Reisner potentially at tackle. I don't think he's fully left guard immersed because now you have just roster math where you have 4 guys in 3 interior spots. And I saw enough from Moody where I know there's going to be lows, and offensive line play is even more so about being consistent. You'd rather have a guy who's consistently good than a guy who is awesome 90% of the time and just blows his assignment 10% of the time. Like, consistency on the offensive line is the most important thing. Just ask Joe Thomas. That was the name of the game. But I think that maybe Reisner is the one that I'd be thinking about moving. I know he has some intelligence for the center position, but you have Cushenberry, you have Glasgow, who have experience there already. Maybe it is Reisner to push that right tackle position. Now, is it an ideal fit? I'm not sure, but I also do know that in this scheme, we're seeing much more pins and pulls and more power schemes, some inside zone as well. You get Reisner on the move some, and that's good, but I think maybe that right tackle position is also one where you could get some value out of him and maybe get the best 5 out there.
I like this, Michael Crabtree. We've got a star-studded crew here today. I would like Sewell in the first, Farley in the second, Dylan Moses in the third. I would like that too.
Dylan Moses in the third feels about right. I don't know if I'd take him in the first. He's smart. I think he's a hard worker. Obviously, coming off that knee injury, hasn't looked the same this year as he did 2 years ago. And man, I was not impressed with him versus Florida. And in coverage, everybody's like, "Oh, we draft a linebacker so we can end our coverage woes." Well, don't watch Dylan Moses. That was not him. But maybe, and obviously, some of the coverage is scheme, but still, yikes. We have Broncos 2-4-4-7 coming in. If anybody has never watched Max Borghi, running back, Washington State, that's the guy we need. Well, and the Building the Broncos podcast, we promise every week not to talk running back. No, I'm just kidding. I have not seen him, even though I'm in Washington State. The name sounds familiar, but I do not know Max off the top of my head. So I couldn't tell you, but Broncos taking a running back. My philosophy is every other year you take one round 5, 6, or 7, and you just roll them in and out, because if you're paying them, odds are you're going to regret it. And if you're drafting in the first round, a lot of times people are like, well, we already, drafted them with a first round pick. Now we have to sign them. And it just does not work out. So no thanks.
The one time that it is maybe a little okay is when they do have that versatility to be a receiving option, kind of like a Christian McCaffrey. He makes sense in the fact that he can play multiple positions. He's a returner. He's a slot receiver. He's a running back. You can get him involved enough in the offense in many different ways that he becomes such a matchup problem for other teams. He's a guy that makes sense. But otherwise, you even think about the best running back in football right now, Derrick Henry. He wasn't a first-round pick. And even there, I'd say in some ways he limits that offense because of his inability as a receiving option. Yeah. So there's still a good offense. Don't get me wrong. And he's still a great running back. I do question the longevity of how long he can play at that kind of level. That's always the argument against running backs. We're talking about Philip Lindsay kind of seeing some drop off with each season. It kind of reminds me of Chris Johnson. He goes and has that 2,000-yard season, and then you saw after that just drop after drop after drop in his production, because once you take away, especially their elite skill, it's hard for them to do anything else.
And running back's such a weird position because historically they are pretty much always best on their first contract. Yep. And they're cheaper on their first contract than their second contract. So the analogy that I like to use is, imagine you have a car and you give it, you're getting it for a good rate. And then now if somebody else wants to buy a used car off of you for more money than what you originally paid off of it, even though it's going to perform worse, it's going to have to go into the shop more often, and return on investment is probably going to be less as well. So I don't know, man. I just, paying running backs a second contract is always a dangerous game for me. You're seeing it right now, how the Rams, they got rid of Gurley in the contract, and now even though they lost to the Jets, they're kind of on a contention route. The Cowboys, as soon as Dak went down, they died. The team was done. So, and they paid Ezekiel Elliott all that money and just nothing. Tony Pollard honestly might be the better player out of those two right now. He offers more in the pass game and is more explosive. Right. So I don't know, man. It's just, and I guess this is probably all building up for us to say probably not paying. I would probably not pay Philip Lindsay a big contract if it was up to me, but we'll see what happens. And we got Kenneth Booker coming in here. We got to get to this. Kenneth, speaking of Lindsey, wearing the number 2 jersey there before he made the squad. Thoughts on saying Awuzie from Dallas? Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. I remember watching Awuzie at Colorado. Him and Witherspoon. Awuzie, yes. Yep. Pretty good duo there. I would be interested in signing Awuzie if it was decently cheap. I'm not looking to pay him anything beyond he's coming in to compete for cornerback 3, 4, 5. So, I mean, Dallas is looking to take cornerback. Almost every single mock draft I've seen, Dallas has them taking cornerback. And part of the reason is Awuzie has left them wanting.
Yes. So, and I do question a little bit. I mean, he can play inside, he can play outside, but he's not really elite at either of them. You like a guy that can really fit in. And I would say his better fit is on the inside. And right now that's Callahan's best fit.
Yeah.
So you don't really want to take Callahan out of the slot corner spot. I'm looking more for an outside guy than an inside guy.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think the Broncos will be looking for more of a boundary guy if they're taking one early at least. And I got a bone to pick with Richie Rich here real quick. We need to look at a big-bodied running back who can also catch. What do you call Melvin Gordon if he's not a big-bodied running back? Right? He's like 6'1", 215, 225. Like that's a hoss in today's NFL. Where there's the Jerome Bettis's don't play anymore. That type of game is over. It's a spread pass game. So as far as size at running back, I mean, I think Melvin Gordon is on the power end of that.
Oh, Richie Rich coming in a drunk.
Okay. Well,
I mean that was the only reason I didn't mind the contract given to Gordon is because his ability on 3rd and short and his goal line ability. Because he has that great. He's got some power to his game, but he's also got good vision to find a little hole where he can turn. I mean, this last game's a great example. 3rd and 8 or 3rd and goal, boom, scores a touchdown. That was a great ability right there. That was impressive.
Yeah, but I definitely think the Broncos should look at running back probably round 5, 6, 7, maybe round 4 if there's a guy there they love. But other than that, I mean, it's a fodder position. A candidate fodder position. You just keep continually churning them in and out, and you're going to be able to find guys, and then you use them at their cheapest and their most valuable, and rinse, wash, repeat. Just makes so much sense. If you want a good running game, invest in the offensive line. Keep investing in the offensive line because that's really what does it. Or have space players that make it too damaging to load the box up.
Right.
And that includes a quarterback. So,
and I'll be honest, I really don't mind if the Broncos just run it with the same group that they have this year. Gordon, Lindsey, Freeman.
Yeah. I think that because of both of Lindsey and Gordon likely free agency in after next season, I wouldn't mind them going to running back late just to kind of prepare yourself for that eventuality. But if it doesn't land that way and they just want to bring in another UDFA guy, then whatever, fine. Let's go for it. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
So I know the Richie Rich aids. I don't know, man. I think people see Derrick Henry and think the Broncos need that, and you have to completely overhaul your offense to run the Derrick Henry offense, which the Titans are proving is worth it for them. Granted, they would like a little bit better defense. But oh man, we got an Iowa question in here. We got the first DNV coming in here.
We got a Kansas question too. Puka Williams from KU, probably the only halfway draftable player from that team. And even there, he's going to fall because he had off-field issues. So I'm not even sure that he's going to be drafted. I think talent-wise, he's draftable, but you throw in the red flags off the field, I do question whether I think he'll probably be that undrafted free agent. And I wouldn't mind the Broncos going and getting him. I mean, his freshman year, I think he was freshman of the year in the Big 12 that season, and definitely deserved it. His explosiveness was impressive. So he's got an elite trait to his game. But I think he's one of those guys, he's just going to have to really show something on an NFL roster to get a chance to make it.
Yeah, we got a good comment coming in here from DNV3. I like Levante Bellamy. He looked good in college. Yep. He was good in college. That was a good one. I also want to get to this MJ Franklin one because this was a good comment too. Everyone needs a Henry, but it's an asymmetrical league. Good coach, good QB. You can win any number of ways from there. I mean, really, that's the long and the short of it. If you have a good coach and a good quarterback, you can reshuffle the other positions every year, and you'll have a chance.
Right.
So really, that's what building the Broncos is all about. That's the core tenet. You can get a good coach with preferably offensive minded, but a good coach that can stick around for a bit, build a good culture, and a good quarterback. You got a chance,
right,
every single year.
And you could have a great quarterback with a bad coach and still find ways to win.
Casey Martin coming in here. This is one I want to get to here. Casey Martin, I disagree with you guys about the running back position. Look how important the Browns running backs have been to their success this year. The Browns running backs are good. I definitely agree with you there. The Browns have, I think, 4 of the top 10 graded offensive linemen, according to Pro Football Focus this year. And I think they have 3 of the top 5. So, again, running backs are as good as their blocking. And the Browns invested Jedrick Wills, who's been playing incredible this season. Wyatt Teller has been playing incredible this season. And they have a couple other. I got to pull up the Browns depth chart now off the top of my head, but they've been really good this season. And great. Nick Chubb is a really good back. Kareem Hunt, I'm glad he's not on the Chiefs anymore, but not a great incident with him. But that's a really talented one too, and you don't want to take away from that. But it starts with the offensive line there. That's where the ground game starts.
Right. And I'd say they're not just winning because of their running game. They have a lot of other great things going on. They have a great defense.
Franchise quarterback.
Right. He's a good quarterback. And I guess that means franchise quarterback. That doesn't mean that he's elite quarterback. They have some decent weapons there. And then, of course, like I said, defense. Myles Garrett, one of the top 5 defensive players in football right now. They have a decent defense around him beyond just him on that team. And so they're winning games. I don't think they're a Super Bowl contending team. And, the run game will get them so far. But eventually, when you got to start relying on playing some catch up against a team like the Chiefs, maybe even Baltimore, some of those kind of things, I think they're going to have their struggles with some of that.
Yeah, and hats off to Stefanski, their head coach, is also bringing in the only offensive line coach in football that could give Munchak a run for his money is Bill Callahan. And what he's done with the Browns this season has been remarkable. So, they had the infrastructure in place, and they really invested in the offensive line. So they have Jedrick Wills, who Tristan Wirfs, Jedrick Wills, Mekhi Becton all look like incredible 15-year-long offensive tackles. So good for those teams getting those guys. Joel Latino, who's really good. J.C. Treader, who I think is the highest-rated center in football season. Wyatt Teller, who's the highest-rated right guard. And Jack Conklin, who they paid a big contract to and is playing okay, but he might be their worst offensive lineman. That's a unit. And with that unit, with that offensive line, they can dictate tempo. And when you have a guy like Nick Chubb, who is one of the top 5 most talented rushers of the football in the game, you can debate about the passing attack, but as a rusher of the football, about as good as it gets. So that's a recipe for success.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's been interesting, actually. This might be an argument against wide receiver a little bit. Baker Mayfield has been doing better since OBJ went down with injury. Yeah,
it's really, that is interesting. You have to wonder how much of it is allowing the scheme to function and going multiple directions with the football versus funneling an offense to one player who, if you didn't do that, would have some issues. It's kind of like Matt Stafford started to actually play better when you saw Calvin Anderson or Calvin Johnson retire, because you didn't have to force feed him the ball. Like his best offensive statistical output was after that, which it seems counterintuitive, but
right.
Here we are.
No, I'm with you there. That's always, it's great to have that elite wide receiver, but at the same time, like I said, sometimes it pressures you to try to get them the ball more than you should. And when you start doing that and can't spread it around, and defenses can really key in on that one player, it just really takes away from the entire offense. And so that's why I'm saying sometimes I'm not saying don't pay wide receivers, but I think there's so many great wide receivers coming out of college. That's another position I struggle to really want to pay top dollar for.
Oh man. It's just typically they have so much better longevity than the running back position. So if you have a Julio Jones, it makes sense to pay them.
Right. I'm not disagreeing with that. When you have elite talent like that, and I'm not saying don't go pay Cortland Sutton when his contract opportunity comes available. It's just one of those, I would be careful of how I structure it.
Yeah.
Because I do think that there are replacements out there that you can find for decent money and still have a very, very productive offense.
Yep. No, that's a good call. It is interesting, and it is a position that it does seem every single year. Is this the best wide receiver class since blah, blah, blah? Yeah, every year. I mean, this year is another good one. So there is definitely some argument to be made there. I do think that getting that speed element and how that kind of changes the dynamic of your offense and the numbers that teams, they just simply can't allocate to the box when you have a home run threat. That
right.
I think having that guy is a make or break in contending, unless you have a Tom Brady or a Ben Roethlisberger whose arms look like they're kind of falling off. But it's interesting. I mean, that's the team building conversation is so built on philosophy and the ebb and flow of the league that it's always evolving and will always be interesting because it's always changing. So we got Brian Greenfield coming in here. Thank you so much. Honestly, the Broncos going after Stafford and would almost bet money they would go hard after Dak, but I don't see him leaving Dallas. I don't know if the Broncos have the cash on hand to pay Dak, but if he was available, I would, and Broncos had the mean, I would be pounding that table because I think Dak is a top 10 quarterback in this league, top 15, and has the ability to be a top 10, and you have another decade of him being really good. So you add Dak to this team right now, and we're talking, I don't know if they'd beat the Chiefs, but because the Chiefs are just a juggernaut. I mean, they're far and away the best team in football, but you're not seeing a game like we saw this last week where the Broncos got pantsed by the Bills. They would belong on the field, and I think they would be easily a playoff contender. But again, I think Jerry Jones probably realized the error of his ways and is opening his big mouth and is going to be very happy to have Dak Prescott back next year and will pay him accordingly.
Yep. And I saw Chase Wellner had said, I would hate to see Stafford go to New England. Oh, sorry there. I don't want to hate the guy. Unfortunately, I think you're probably going to have to hate the guy. I've heard
he's going to go to New England.
I do. I think that's probably the top destination of where he ends up. I mean, him and Belichick just seem like a great pairing to really build that offense and get them back to being playoff contenders against the Bills and Miami and the AFC East there. But that would be my guess. I don't think the Broncos will go after him. I think the cost will be too much. Like you said, contract-wise makes it hard for him as well. You have to pay him pretty big money. You got maybe a 5-year window because I think he's 32 or 33 right now. So you do have some kind of window with him, but I just think there's probably some other places that they'll go for a veteran than him.
Yeah. Dallas taking Dak for granted. I think that that ship has sailed. They had him on a rookie contract, and they could not figure out the defense, and they kept paying interior offensive linemen and a running back instead of fortifying the defense. And here we are. Granted, their offense this year under Dak, he was like throwing 400 yards a game. Still wasn't enough because the defense was so good. But, we'll see. We'll get to your one more here, Rich, because we're running a little bit long. Nick and Carl, my biggest question is this. Why haven't we made a choice on what offensive team we're going to be? To me, that is the most important thing. Well, that is kind of a chicken or the egg question there, Richie Rich. You really can't say what type of offensive team you're going to be until you have a quarterback. And the quarterback then dictates offensive philosophy. So that's why, with a Jet, you have quarterbacks who can play in multiple systems. Like Trevor Lawrence can play in any system and he's going to succeed. But that's not true for Zach Wilson or a guy like Justin Fields. So you have to have the offensive scheme match the quarterback, and then the quarterback match what type of offense you're running. But it's not you don't really decide until you have that quarterback.
Right. And I think this is where the biggest mistake I've seen of the Broncos is they like to put their eggs into many different baskets. And so instead of, hey, we're going to just completely commit to Drew Lock and building everything around him when they drafted him as a rookie, they went and got Joe Flacco and paid him big money. Those are two very opposite quarterbacks. And so right there, they did some of the same with Paxton Lynch and Trevor Siemian. Commit to somebody and make that decision. This is our guy and build around him. Well, unfortunately, Paxton Lynch didn't really give them much of an option because he just was terrible and he did not put in the work. So it's kind of hard to want to build around a guy that's not putting in the work. So right now, you're right. That's kind of the problem is when you don't know if you have the quarterback, it's hard to commit to one thing or the other. Brian Greenfield here, fix your internet connection.
That was me. I apologize. My room that I'm using right now is a cat recovery center. So we'll be back hopefully in a week, but we appreciate that, Brian. We're going to get on out of here, though. We've already run a little bit long, and we got things to do. That's going to do it for Building the Broncos. You can find Carl on Twitter at Carl Dumler, MHH, and myself at Kendell, MHH. Make sure you go on over to milehighhuddle.com for all of our written content and, of course, the Mile High Huddle community content. Head on over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. Also, guys, like, subscribe, and share. If you are joining us on YouTube, click those little thumbs up. My Facebook brothers and sisters, that's what we have written down here, so I'm going to go with it. But really, the best thing you can do for us is like, subscribe, and share on YouTube. That can help us so much, and that'll also help us keep the lights on for all the other Denver Bronco podcasts that are coming out. Huddle Up Podcast, Mile High Insiders. You got the Dove Valley Deep Divers. So, I mean, that helps a lot if you can do that. Also, follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at BTB Football Pod. Carl, you got any plans for the rest of the night? I
got to get ready for some Christmas services. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be staying up late here at the office, getting some things done for that.
Well, stay safe. Happy holidays to you. I won't see you before that. I'm going to go cook dinner and take care of the dog and go check on the cat. So appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Please stay safe. Make smart decisions. Go Broncos.